Hey, it's going to be a heavy one. The amount of hate was just unfathomable. Listen, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. That was a jerk move. He shouts out, "Hey, JC, why don't you remind us what happened in episode 8?" We were pretty high up. If I fall from here, I'm going to hurt something. We may be able to persuade him to drop. And it worked. He puts my husband on the line. I have bad news. And so while I'm at Beast Games, my son is being airlifted to a children's hospital. Sorry.
Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Behind the Beast, where we get to know the contestants on Beast Games Season 2, Strong vs. Smart.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is JC, player 566, OG Season 1 and Season 2.
Let's go. More money this season, right? More
More
money.
money. That was the theme.
I love
But
that
I got
too.
no more money.
In Season 1, you were kind of like cemented as one of the biggest villains. But what is really the difference between a villain edit and being a villain in your behavior, would you say?
Ooh, you're coming in hot and heavy. That's a good question. I'd say a villain behavior is someone who is moving with malice, who's intentionally trying to take others down, with foul play. That's at least my interpretation of that. I would say villain edit, if you look in the dictionary, it'll probably have my name under it. It's giving the perception of, right? It's giving a glimpse into what you want people to believe without giving them the full story. At least that's the way I see it. You're manipulating the narrative. That's my difference.
And I feel that is kind of like what even happened between us. I'm kind of like jumping a little bit ahead, but whenever you guys were first introduced, even I had the perception of you based off what I saw on the TV show, and I made a certain comment that you heard as well.
Oh, I heard that. I heard that, Brandon. I was like, look at Brandon's shady boots.
I will say though, my perception changed quite a bit once I got to know you. But I'm curious. So, whenever you did hear that in the episode, what was your reaction after we had already become friends and seeing that as a past moment?
I loved it. I was like, all right, I see you, Brandon. I see you. But, it's different when you're in that environment and the cameras come up. You sometimes say something to the camera that you probably wouldn't say to someone in real life or in front of them. It is what it is. It's part of the show, right? It's part of the dynamics and part of the fun. You got to stir the pot sometimes. So when I saw you say that, I was like, let me find out that you had this one little inkling of but there was truth to what you said, because I did walk into the show with probably one of the largest targets on my back. So there was some truth to what you said. But then I got to know you. You were gracious enough to give me a tour of the city. You were the first person to welcome me in. And I felt it was genuine. So, yeah, no hard feelings.
And that's I think at the end of the day, edits, they manipulate sometimes what the full reality, and they can't show every single moment on a reality TV show. So I think it's always good to give people a chance to actually get to know them personally. So I'm glad that I did get to know you, because you're actually a really genuine dude.
I appreciate that.
So now, what is one thing that fans think they know about you that is just completely wrong?
I'm not greedy. I'm not selfish. Sure. Despite what it may seem like, that's just not my character. My friends that know me, they know I'm very generous. I'm a very generous person. I'm very kind. I do think of others sometimes before I think of myself. But going back to your first question with the edits, right? The edits give a different story. So that's something I would say that they might have gotten wrong.
Whenever we did talk about it, you kind of mentioned what was the backstory behind the decisions that you made in Season 1. Would you feel comfortable talking about what led you to truly making that decision that wasn't shown on Season 1?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I look back at that moment and I'm like, it makes sense for them to not have shown it, because if they would have shown the full thing, then I think people would put themselves in my shoes and say, oh, wow, this all makes sense now. I would have done the same, if not more. I wouldn't have left a penny on the table. But yeah, I was in a position where I let my emotions drive my decisions. I was facing two really strong emotions at the moment. I was facing anger and I was facing fear. I was angry because the people that I thought were the most loyal to me behind closed doors were contriving a plan to take me
Mhm.
out, and I don't like that. I'm loyal to a fault. And then the fear of what if they execute this plan? Um, I just spent 5.5 weeks away from my family for
Yeah.
what, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah, so those two emotions weighed really heavy on me while I was in my cabin. Um, and I couldn't see past that, and I made my decision at that point based on that, on how I was feeling, not thinking about how it would impact other people. I was just in a complete blackout, and I was like, I'm pissed off, and I'm in fear. I'm in fear. I didn't want to come that far to get that far, and that was it. So I made my decision.
And they also like isolated you in your own little homes. So like at that point, it really like created the metaphor that like you're here for yourself.
Like
Oh yeah,
at the end of the day. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, when it got down to top 10, that was it. You were alone in that big space, empty space with a bed right in the middle. I mean, it was very calculated the way they positioned, the settings.
Now, I'm also curious, like, how did this actually impact your real life whenever you exited the games and the episodes actually started to release? Did you expect to get some of the backlash that you did? And what was some of that backlash?
Yeah, I knew that I was going to get some backlash, not to the extent that I received the backlash, though. The Beast team was amazing. They kind of prepped me in advance. They contacted me just before the episode aired, and they're like, "Hey, it's going to be a heavy one, and here's what you may expect to see from this." And they had psychologists on board for me. I mean, it was crazy. Now, I'm here thinking I can't really be that bad, but it got really, really bad. It was 2025 was a really trying time for me. The amount of hate that came from it was just unfathomable. Um, the fact that people dug really deep and made it more than what it should have been. Homophobia is thriving. Um, and then they took it to a different level. And that's when the death threats came in. And that's when I saw people on social media like exposing my real life and saying, "Hey, just in case you're interested, this is where he lives. This is what he drives. This is where he works." I was like, wow,
Yeah.
like, should never get to that point. And, in the state of the world we live in right now, it's
Scary.
tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very scary time. And um, yeah, it had me fearful for a while in the beginning stages. Um, but I got through it.
No. And yeah, I'm glad that you did because honestly, I think the second season you came back and honestly, like after all the hate that you did receive, I am actually like kind of surprised that you took that chance. So I kind of want to know a little bit of like why you decided to come back and do that. But also, you became kind of like, from what I've been seeing, like a lot of people's favorite like game player. They're
Like, okay, like
No,
yeah,
it's
he did
crazy.
something wild in season one, but he's actually kind of fun this season. Did you feel like there's been a shift in the second season?
Totally a major shift, which I didn't expect either. Um, you've got two types of people, right? People that can give someone a second chance, and then those that just hold on to a grudge and never let go.
Yeah.
And I saw that there was more grace given to me in season two as a result of how things panned out, which I'm very grateful for, because we all make mistakes. And, if I can't forgive someone for their mistakes, how can I expect them to forgive me? Right. So yeah, it was refreshing. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. The hate still comes in, not as
Yeah.
heavy as it did last year, but it's part of the territory.
How do you feel like because I think I tagged you on my story of this how there's this like one SpongeBob scene where Squidward basically says I have no soul and fire comes up behind him. That I feel that's very similar to how a lot of your edits happen on the show. So how does it feel for that to be like your notorious moment is like the guy has fire flames behind him?
Listen, any moment they can put fire behind me, it's like they run with it.
Yeah.
It's the narrative that they want to keep pushing,
Yeah.
right? And I'm okay with it. Sometimes you have to lean into it, but I won't lean into it to the point where I am intentionally trying to portray a villain because it's not my character. That's not my nature. But um, it was entertaining and made good TV, and they're going to run with it. The one thing I will tell you about me is that I am unpredictable. Unlike other characters in the game, you never know what I'm going to say. You never know what I'm going to do. You never know what my gameplay or my strategy is, and I find that to be quite entertaining for myself as well because I never know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, you didn't like necessarily lean into villainry. You seeing you there in person, you kind of had fun with it. Like when people made jokes like Mo Money, and even whenever they had you step up almost for the captain bribe, like you're willing to run with the bits. And I feel like you're just like a genuine fun dude.
That was like,
You
hey, this is
have
what happened.
to,
Yeah,
right? Like if you can't laugh at yourself, come on, man, you're taking life too seriously.
very true.
Going back to the moment where, yeah, I kind of like didn't know you too much. We kind of started getting closer. I feel around the blocks. We both entered the blocks game, and we entered the room. They gave us random blocks. They didn't matter. And I'll be honest. Whenever I lined up behind you, I was like, ah, dang, I'm JC's right next to me. Oh, what the heck? But I'll say the first moment that like I was like, okay. Once we got in our lines, you pointed to our blocks. It's like, hey, Brandon, that's your name? Cool. Nice to meet you. I'm JC. Like, I'll protect your tower if you protect my tower, because we thought we were going to be knocking each other's towers down with something. So at that point, I first connected with you. But then afterwards, we actually got talking. And another moment that really changed my perspective about you is whenever you told me kind of about the backstory with your family as well and what is happening around the time of the games. So as much as you feel comfortable, would you want to explain that moment to the audience as well?
Yeah, I'm an open book. There are things that I do keep private, so I'll share some of the details. Not really expose too much. I do want to keep the integrity of our family dynamics somewhat private. But yeah, in season one, I want to say around episode 6 or 7, my son got really sick, and for those that don't know, when you're playing these games, you give them an emergency contact, right? And as you progress in the games, your emergency contact gets a text message that says your loved one is doing great. They're advancing to the next, game. And he was getting all of these texts, and he knew that I was doing well. And he made a really tough decision to not take me out of the games, to keep me in. He trusted me. He believed in me. My husband, Joseph, he's the real hero in this, right? Him and my son, Preston. So fast forward, he took on all the responsibility. So while I'm at Beast Games, my son is being airlifted to Children's Hospital of LA. So he was transported by helicopter twice. And during that time, he was transported by ambulance about 3 or 4 times, I believe, is what Joseph told me. So it was really bad. And I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on. I was in Beast Games. I was not in tune with reality. You're in a skewed reality with no connection to the outside world. And it wasn't until my elimination in episode 8 that Klitzner pulls me out of the van and says, hey, I want you to come with me in a different van. And I'm thinking, whoa, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
I'm like, I played the game fair.
Yeah.
I didn't break the rules. And it's just me and Klitzner. And he says, I have your husband on the line. And I was like, that's amazing. I haven't seen him in 5.5 weeks. And I was so excited to share, what just happened and the news that I'm going to be, that our lives are going to change and that we're going to have a financial reset. And I had all this good stuff to tell him. And, he puts my husband on the line and Joseph says, I have bad news. And my brain immediately went to, it's my mom, because my mom is older. And I immediately went to my mom, right? I was like, there's no way in God's green earth that anything happened to my children. I left these games and I left very healthy children at home. So long short, he tells me, what was going on with Preston. And when I tell you that I had the biggest panic attack, like in my life, knowing that I'm I'm in a different country, um, and I don't know what's going on, and he still doesn't really know what's going on. And it's it's scary. I just wanted to be by my son's side more than anything. And I mean, that's it. In a nutshell, the Beast team, flew me first to New York because I had my youngest child, Ashton, um, in New York. My in-laws and my best friend they were watching Ashton for me while I was at the games because he wasn't in school yet.
Yeah.
And Joseph was alone with Preston in California. So they flew me first to New York. I picked up my son Ashton and immediately got into another flight to California. Got to see my son. Experienced firsthand what he was going through. It's the first time I got to see it myself. Sorry.
Take your time.
And then it became reality, and that became our new normal at that point. I took some extra time off of work and I needed to focus on my family. So there was never any celebration of anything that happened in these games. It was just, how do we recover? How do we move forward? What do we do now? Appointments, specialists, and I'm happy to say I can report now that he's doing well. He's doing well, and he's on meds.
Yeah.
Probably, who knows, maybe for the rest of his life. We have a routine, morning and evenings, and it's just our new normal. And
Yeah.
and you got to move forward.
That really did. Whenever I did hear you talk about this in person, I think that really changed because you really like are a family man and like a protector. And I feel like, again, you didn't know what you're walking into once you walked out of those games, but I think the decisions you made were happened for a reason. And so, like, knowing this context, I am really glad that like you were the person who was able to help your family and needed that money to do so. So
I appreciate that. And I made an intentional decision, Brandon, when we were at Tribal, and I know I'm probably jumping way ahead, but I made an intentional decision not to talk about that because all the players that were on that um, podium, they knew, right? It's not like I was going to be telling them something new. And that platform is worldwide, and I wanted it to keep certain things, off record. I didn't want to exploit my child for a sympathy vote.
I think that was like a very respectable thing to do. So, but yeah, definitely like the players, like I think it's only natural we're in the city to talk about personal things, but when it comes to like TV and manipulating the vote, I think it was very respectful for leaving that out.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some of your biggest moments on this season of season 2 Beast Games Strong versus Smart. One of the first big moments that they didn't even show on TV, again, just because they had limited time to do so, is that you're the only OG to actually complete the obstacle course in its entirety. So I want to get your perspective of how did it feel to be thrown into a strong challenge with some of the strongest people in the world and be able to fend for yourself in that challenge?
Oh, I was living for that moment. That's what I wanted out of season one. More skill-based challenges, challenges where you move yourself forward on your own merit. When you look back at season one, there was a lot of luck. You had to be in the right place at the right time with the right people. There was so many of those dynamics going on. And season two came along, and they took all their notes and they did right. It was more games where it was exciting. You make a really good call out. I didn't think about that until you actually mentioned it, that I was the only OG that actually went through the course because Mia didn't have to because
she's
you
on
guys
my
had already
team, and
locked in. You locked in your win, so she got a fast pass. Jeff was smart because he looked at his competition. He knew that he wasn't going to stand a chance against Cole. Come on now, and he gracefully turned it over to Corey, which was a smart strategic move. But yeah, I'm the only one. I wish they would have shown that moment because for me, I went into season two to show that I'm a competitor. And that was an opportunity to show that. And like you said, yeah, I'm going against the strongest. I'm going against the smartest. I don't fit in. I'm not strong enough. I'm not smart enough, but I'm driven. I'm driven and
And you
motivated by
held
my
your own.
family. And that, yeah, that
Yeah.
fuels me. I wish they would have shown that because I didn't have to complete the course at that point, simply because we already locked in a win. But I felt it was important for me to do that for two reasons. Motivate my team, right? Get the morale up. Like, wow, if JC can cross this course at my tender age, then I have no damn excuse,
Yeah.
But most importantly, I wanted to feel out the course and help them out by going each step of the way and saying, hey, this little cylinder over here kind of rotates, be careful here. Or this is a bigger jump than that first jump. Like I was navigating them through each step of the way so they can start formulating their plan because it was tough, man.
Yeah.
At the range.
Yeah, the rain especially. But no, we were watching on the side, and there was that one final jump from the teeter-totter into the other circle.
I almost ate it.
Yeah, and basically, like, again, you didn't show this, but JC was literally hanging on one end with his toes, on the other end with his, like, upper body, and he somehow clutched it up. He, like, pushed, and then he, like, launched himself onto that platform. So I'm sure, like, having that knowledge, you're at least able to help your teammates near the end there.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can cross the line and wait for them on the other side, it'll really amp them up, and that's what I wanted to do. But
it was really fun.
it was a great obstacle course. I loved it, man.
Yeah. And then that wasn't even your only strong moment. Then we go onto the island, and you were one of the final three people hanging onto those poles. And yeah, you were shaking a bit, but you were actually holding your own. I feel like Ian at that moment, love him, but he was shaking a bit more at that time. It really was between you and Ethan. So can you walk us through that moment on the poles? How you were able to sustain yourself for that long?
Yeah, well, we were pretty high up. And I was like, if I fall from here, I'm going to hurt something. and my bones are brittle. So I'm like, I'm going to hold on to dear life. The soul would have to come out of my body in order for me to like let this pole go. So I was determined to hold on to that thing no matter what I had to do. I wasn't going to let go. The interesting thing is that in my peripheral, I had a clear glance at Ethan, but I could not see Ethan. I'm sorry. Their names are so similar. I couldn't see Ian.
Yeah.
Right. I would have to have like leaned back to see what's going on in his world, and then I'll probably lose my grip, lose my footing. So I had no idea what was going on in Ian's side. But my perception was, okay, he's participated in Ninja Warrior. This is in his wheelhouse. He hangs, he climbs, he, jumps, he swings. Like he's probably chilling more than Ethan is. At least that's what I thought. I would have never thought that he was struggling up there, because he trains for that. He's fit for that. Yes, he's a bigger dude, but that's what you do for a living, right? So I didn't know what was going on that side of the world. I just knew what was going on next to me. And for the record, because going back to like the edits, right? I did not start that conversation with Ethan. That conversation started with Ian, and I was like, "Ooh, this is interesting."
This is interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I need to jump in on this because if he's hearing it from both sides, we may be able to persuade him to drop, and it worked. So yes, I added to the conversation, but I didn't start the conversation.
And I think one of the interesting parts also is that whenever they're first telling you select a pole, the polls are fair, they're all the same, but the positioning of where you were, that really would have changed things. Because I think if you were in the middle and you would have seen Ian struggling, I think that would have changed the whole dynamic possibly. So it was very interesting to see how, like, even something that you don't think is a strategic move, there's always strategy in everything you do on these games.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And we were up there for a while, and it was tough. It was tough. There's a moment that I wish they would have shown as well, but
Mhm.
it just didn't make the edits, where I look down and I look at Ethan's foot, because there's very little grip that you can put in that crevice. Sometimes it's just a toe or the edge of your foot, and I could
Yeah.
see his toe was slightly purplish, and I was like, is this a bruise or is he losing circulation? And there
Sure.
was a moment where I'm like, hey, Ethan, readjust your foot,
Mhm.
readjust your foot. But
You're actually trying to provide like support for your team or like
yeah,
competitors and
but
like make it a fair game. But
yeah, but that wouldn't be a flame edit, so they
yeah,
can't
they got
they
to make
can't
it more
use that.
competitive. Yeah.
I do want to talk about, because obviously like the tribal is one of the big moments that you were also a part of, because you did make it there against Ian. And one of the most dramatic moments, I think, was whenever Jeff called you out, and he said that he didn't, or like you didn't seem guilty until the guilt kind of became like a gameplay strategy. So I want to know from your perspective, do you feel that was accurate, or do you feel there's more that was going on internally that obviously like the audience can see inside your head?
Yeah, there's more to that. Listen, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. That was a jerk move. Um, he stooped really, really low. Uh, he didn't have to go there, but he did. He wanted to see me grovel. And another thing that they don't show, when we are actually hanging up on the poles, um, Jeff stands up and he shouts out, "Hey, JC, why don't you remind us what happened in episode 8?"
Mhm.
Like, that's the side of Jeff that I see, that I know that the audience doesn't see, the audience doesn't know. Very calculated. He can be very deceptive when he needs to be, manipulative. And I remember hanging onto that pole and saying, "Hey, Jeff, you know very well what happened. You were there." I gave some sort of
I try
short
to brush it
answer to
off
that.
for a
But
moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was already trying to throw me off of my game.
Yeah.
So when he harped on that word about me being inconsiderate,
Yeah.
it was intentional. It was
Yeah.
intentional. It was basically to seal the deal, to remind everybody what a bad person JC is. This is why you shouldn't vote for him. There was a lot of motive behind that. He didn't have to say anything
Yeah.
at all, but he chose to. And my thought process is one of two things. Either he was spiteful because we're the last two OGs standing, right? And I'm really holding my ground. I'm really showing up and I'm really performing well.
Mhm.
Um, or it was revenge, a revenge vote. Like, I'm going to get you back to what you did in season 1. You
Mhm.
know, this is what it tastes like, JC.
Yeah.
So it was really hurtful for me, because out of everybody on that panel, he's the one person that knows the most about what I went through on my personal life. He's the person that I consulted with when I needed to seek specialists. Like, he knows what my situation is, and it really bothered me that I got caught off guard. I was in the moment. I didn't even know what to say. I was just dumbfounded. Like, why would you attack me like this? Why are you kicking me when I'm already down, Jeff? Like, what joy are you getting out of this?
Yeah.
And it was intentional. I spoke to most of the players, at least the players that I thought had my back.
Mhm.
Because the question I get asked often is, well, why didn't you just take the $50,000? There's no way that you would have actually won that island. I disagree. When I looked at the panel of players that were going to be voting, I for sure thought that I had 4 people on my side, and that's all I needed in order to compete for the actual island. A
Yeah.
split vote means that we go into another challenge, and that's what I wanted. I
Yeah.
thought I had the girls, which Katie and Hannah. Listen, I contributed to their progress.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were on my team. Um, Sue, I spent 15 and a half hours on a flight with her. I know Sue up, down, left, right. She knows me up, down, left, right. Like, we bonded on a more than a surface level. We
Yeah.
knew each other's purpose. And then there was
Mhm.
Jeff, who, when we left the limo, we locked eyes and, hey, I got you, you got me. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you
We
got
got
to
to
stick
help each other
together,
out.
same group. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to help each other out. We're the only OG standing. Let's do this. And gave me his word. But fast forward, I asked Jeff, why didn't you vote for me? I'm curious, right? And his answer to me is because I chose not to believe him when he told me that he had no part in the plot to take down JC in season 1. That I was still choosing not to believe me, even though he is telling me this is his truth. And I find that really ironic, because when I stood up there and I said, hey, I was inconsiderate, I didn't think about these families and their families, and I put mine first, how he was able to twist the narrative and not believe me. And it was okay for him not to believe me, that he thought I was just saying it because to earn a vote, that it was convenient, you know. But he wasn't with me in my hotel room when we're sequestered for multiple hours. I mean, they'd bring lunch to you. We had one day downstairs at the pool that we got to like chill and hang out and all that good stuff. But for the most part, I followed the rules. I never left my room. And when you're stuck in your room for hours and hours and hours with your own thoughts, no devices or anything, you reflect back. And I know I hurt good people.
Yeah.
I know the decisions I made, were had consequences to it.
But like, also, you're doing it for your family, and like,
and I think there's like sometimes people need to separate that. Like, you can still feel guilty, but still like accept the fact that you did it, and this is something that was the right thing to do for the situation that you had at hand. And I don't think that those are mutually exclusive.
Right.
I think sometimes people act like they are. And to kind of go off of your earlier point of also how like you thought like you generally had a chance because there were like 4 people that you thought you generally could get their vote. I want to, like, from my perspective, say that after the obstacle course, there was a lot of people who are against Ian himself as well because of the moment that he had with Mike. And I think that's kind of like emphasized by how surprised people were that Ian won the island when he got back to the city. So like, I think that's like a little part that the audience didn't necessarily catch on to quite yet in season 2. There were a lot of people who actually, after you expressed like what truly happened, like they kind of understood what was going on. But yeah, 100% brevity of the edit, they had to like just move the story forward.
100%. You know, Ian wasn't well liked by some, right? By some, yes. By some, not. You know, I knew for a fact Ian didn't like me. I knew he wanted me out. He wanted all OGs out. You know, there was no denying that. But yeah, there's that element as well that, you know, he didn't have the best reputation in the city either. So it could have gone either way. But clearly, I had the wrong people in the island with me. I wish they would have included like the city's votes. That would have been awesome. But
that would have been interesting. Yeah.
It is what it is at the end of the day. You know, I got to look forward. I can't look back.
I do have a bit of a hard-hitting question, if it's all right. And it basically, what I was thinking is, do you feel that the decision you made with the 650,000 in season 1 is the reason that you ended up losing 1.8 million? And like, have you, like, what does that feel like when you compare the two?
Yeah, for some it was. Like for Sue, you know, I spoke to Sue, and that was her driving factor. She was like, "Well, you already won some, JC. We need to share the wealth," you know, and that's kind of off-putting to me, because then it basically says you're not deserving of anything else ever again, JC. Like, why should I even play at that point? You know, it's like someone who wins the lottery, banning them from ever playing the lotto again. You know, it's at least in my mind, I get it from her perspective, and and that's what she chose to do. But yeah, it's just it hits heavy, you know, when someone says, "Well, you already have some, you already won some," you know.
And in the cubes, that really is the thing that like got out every single person who had money at one point. That is the thing they just couldn't pass. Because I feel like eventually that would be, and like you could compete in the game, but even if they would have lost, that still would have been like, hey, but you still already won money. So that's always an argument used. It's now to like conclude all this together. Do you think was it more hurtful to lose the island itself, or lose kind of the support of the people that you thought was going to provide the support for you in the tribal? What do you think is like worse?
The people. That hurt me the most. I went there, like I said, to compete, and I held my own. I showed up. I got to the. I got as close to the finish line as I could possibly get. Right, I didn't cross that finish line. Um, but just knowing that not one single person went against the grain, that not one single person had the courage to say, "Hey, JC, you're a good guy," or "I know your story, JC. I'm going to support you regardless." They made their decision based on a few factors. We talked about, well, you already got some money, you don't need any more. But then there was also that, hey, Ian can help us more than you can.
Sure.
Ian is stronger. Ian's more agile. Ian is going to get me to the next comp challenge, get me through the next challenge. Nobody can guarantee you that, that. So that was naive for them to think that. And look how it turned out. He
I will
clearly
say,
went back on his word.
Yeah, and I do think that there is one also moment that like I was at least thinking about is that hopefully can help you at least like a little bit is I feel since they made their votes in front of each other, that also added to an element. Nobody wanted to be the person where you saw that they were writing down a
Right.
different name than everyone else. So I think as soon as someone was the first person, and probably Tyler, I bet he was the first person to write down Ian's name because they were like,
He's probably the one that put the heart on his name,
And then at
just
that
based on the
point,
bond they had.
yeah, and at that point, you don't want to be the one vote that voted against, because then you're going to be the one targeted as well. So,
And
at least,
I get that. I get that herd mentality, right? It's like I'm just gonna follow. I'm in a different point in my life where if I feel a certain way about something, I don't care if it's me against 100. I'd rather be that person that stands up and says, "Hey, I got you, man." And I don't care what they think because it is what it is. I am who I am. So yeah, that it was. That's what hurt me the most. It was very disappointing to me, and I couldn't shake that feeling. So we had dinner right after that, and I couldn't muster up the courage to even have dinner with them. Like I sat back at my room, I isolated myself, and maybe that hurt me even more. But I just couldn't find myself breaking bread with people that I thought I could trust.
you.
Yeah. And more so when I say that, I'm speaking specifically about the Sue, the Hannah, the Katie, the Jeff, even Ethan. I knew for a fact I was never going to get any votes from the strong. I knew that for a fact. So I had no ill will feelings against them. It was inevitable. They were gonna stick with Ian no matter what. So, but yeah, I was hurt. I felt let down.
no, but I will say when I was watching it, I was super happy to hear that they brought in a special surprise at the end of the episode, and they gave you that $10 million coin. So can you talk about the whiplash of going from kind of like the lowest low to possibly having leverage, as you say it?
Yeah. That was unexpected. When Carl came out with the box, the first thing that ran through my mind was that's an immunity idol. I said I'm going to have immunity for another challenge, and I was actually very excited in my mind to have immunity, right? Because then I'm going to compete in challenges that I feel like I can compete, and then I have that back pocket safety net to be like, oh, I'm going to tap out of this one. I'm going to use my immunity, push me through. So I personally, I would have wanted that over the $10 million coin, because a $10 million coin doesn't really guarantee you as much in theory as you think, right? Yes, it could possibly get me to top 6, but what if at that point my journey ends? Because I did give my word to flip it, and I was going to flip it for 100%. I was going to flip it, but then that would possibly send me home. So to answer your question, I didn't really know how to process that feeling. I was still sulking in the disappointment, the hurt, not one single vote. I was still stuck in that feeling. you know, and Jimmy's like, hey, you just came from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs. I I didn't know how to just shift emotions like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Because you
Dad,
still
give
have
me
to process what you
yeah,
just
give
went
me a
through. You
moment to
couldn't.
process
Yeah,
this, you know, and now you're giving me this coin, and what do I do with this, and what
yeah,
is this, and how do I use this to my advantage? And you know, when he said, well, what's going through your mind? The first thing that popped into my head was leverage. And I feel like that wasn't even me saying it. It was just like a thought that popped up, and I said leverage. And you know, looking back now, it's kind of an iconic line. I'm not gonna
yeah,
lie.
yeah.
It
And like,
played
I
really
mean,
well.
You are coming from a place of hurt. So at this point, like the psychological thing is like, how do I protect myself? This finally gives me some protection, some leverage. So I like I understand. It wasn't even like, oh, I'm gonna be maniacal, like with the flames
Oh,
it's
again.
going up
it's
behind you.
I'm
That's
going
how
to
the game
use this
works.
as best as I can to try to
Yeah,
advance because I want to advance. I want to go further in the game, you know? Fun fact, because this doesn't show up in the edits, because it never will. Um, and I hate to drag him through this, but Jeff was not a happy camper with my word choice. So
mm-hmm.
off camera, we're getting demiked, and it's just me and him on the side, and he comes up to me and like verbally leverage, JC, really leverage? Is that the best you can do? Like, da da da. And he just came at me.
Mm.
But again, that's the side of Jeff that I get to see, not the side of Jeff that the
That it
viewers get
shows
to see.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I am curious though. So you were trying to like think of ways to use this also as a way to hopefully move you past the next round. How did you end up going into a cube with Jim and Monica? Because I think that's also one of the hardest things to separate is a couple that's so loyal for each other. So how did you end up stuck in the cube with them, if it was even quote unquote stuck?
Yeah, you know, we went into that competition pretty quickly, right? They did
Yeah.
this little bribe offer, and then next thing you know, it's like you turn around at this freaking what do you call those? One of those container doors
Yeah.
just comes barreling down. I mean, and that was not CG. That was not.
Yeah.
That was like we
The
were
wind
stuck in this
blowing.
wind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was real, and that thing went
Yeah.
boom. And next thing you know, you're being pushed back. It was so crazy. And you know, we all see the cubes. We all know what's going on. I lived it. Jeff lived it. In that moment, you know, people start scattering and looking for their partners and stuff. I was already next to Jim and Monica. And to be honest, they were the ones that, based on who was left, they were the ones I was closest to. They were the two players
Sure.
that I trusted the most, that I knew would not try to be deceptive or try to, you know, fool me or trick me.
Yeah.
It just felt right. You know, it just felt 100% right. And we wanted to play a fair game, and yeah, and they were there. Yeah, it was my best choice. You know, I thought for a split second of going up to Ian and saying, "Hey, you know, keep this coin in the game, right?" Because we all knew that he was going to self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
And for a split second, I thought about that, and I was like, you know what? If he's not coming up to me to choose me, I'm not going to force that on him. You know, because to be honest, he should have chosen either Ethan or another player. He would have never chosen me to go in the cube.
Mhm.
He, listen, I'm gonna keep it real. He doesn't like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
He never
Within like
liked me.
everyone. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I'm okay with that. You know,
Yeah.
I got that vibe every time he was around me. I got that gut feeling and that intuition, and the energy would shift in the room when he approached me. I have that, you know, that
Yeah.
sense. So I wouldn't want to be in a cube with him. I would feel miserable in there because it's fake, you
Yeah.
know. But he should have taken Ethan, or he should have stuck to his word and had another island player in there.
Sure.
But I knew that that was going to happen. I saw the writing on the wall. You know, once
If
he
he
got
was
what he
loyal
wanted,
to a
it was
fault.
like,
Yeah.
later, I'm
Yeah.
going back on my word.
Did you ever consider teaming up with Katie and Hannah, or did you kind of have that like mistrust because of the island, or did they already team up with Jeff and basically that was already like off the table?
That's a great question. I wanted nothing to do with the island people.
Really?
Really?
Okay.
When I left that island, I was done.
Yeah.
I severed my ties. That's it. There was nothing I was going to do. If there would have been a challenge where I can take down island people, I would have taken down island people.
Really?
I would have
Wow.
paired up with all the city people. And yeah, because I was still like in that feeling of like, wow,
Yeah.
okay, you know?
And it's
And
crazy because
I
I
know it's
feel
spiteful and, you know, it's petty, but
And yeah, so you really, so like when you were talking to Katie and you were telling her that like it's island people versus city people, that is truly is what you felt. It wasn't even like a gameplay strategy.
you
that's
really
what
were
I
just like,
felt
yeah,
because
yeah,
of the bonds that were being formed,
yeah,
right? And island, and you know we're gonna take care of each other, and da, 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 and you know we were on this trip together, and it's an experience, and I felt that, and you know, like again when you see Ian up there saying, "Hey, you know, I will self eliminate for 8," and then he looks at me and forgets that I'm there 9 players, you know. That was the kind of feeling that Island was going to help and support Advanced Island, you
yeah,
know, and yeah, but I was definitely anti-Island at that point. At that point, I was like, let's play, let's play. I'm gonna take each and every one of you guys out.
And now, finally, with the cube challenge, it seems like there was a lot of conversation that was actually left out that actually led up to you giving the coin to Monika. And they really only showed, they left it at a cliffhanger, and then they showed in the next episode the aftermath of everyone thanking you for giving up the coin and keeping it in the game. So, can you talk to us a little bit about what actually went on in the room and what actually led to that decision?
Yeah, you know, the rule behind the coin is that if I'm eliminated, the coin is eliminated, right? But
yeah,
until I actually put those handcuffs, and that's the loophole here, I'm not technically eliminated.
mhm,
And there was no rule that I am the sole owner of this coin, that I can't transfer it. None of that is ever discussed. So um, it was an opportunity for me to pass that along, right? Keep it in the game. Give someone a chance to possibly double the prize pot. Not only someone, but yourself as well, right? If that's what you choose to do. So the way the dialogue went on, you know, it was my last ditch effort. I'm like, maybe, just
yeah,
maybe, you know, Jim will feel bad.
yeah,
Um, Maybe, just maybe, because I decided to, because the fast pass decision was mine. I was never coerced into that. It was never like, hey, JC, do you think maybe you can give one of us? You know, that was my decision to make. Uh there was a reasoning behind that,
mhm,
which maybe we can talk about. But there was a reasoning why I decided like I gotta I gotta get Monika through. Um and I thought maybe, just maybe, Jim might be like, you know what, you did this for her, I'm going to do this for you. You know,
yeah,
I'll look like the hero in her eyes, like,
yeah,
you know. And he knows for a fact, Jim knows for a fact, I would have fought hard for Monika. Like if I would have went through, that would have been my strongest ally. I would have played really, really hard to make sure that, you know,
and
not
she
that she
was,
could get,
yeah, she carried a lot of her own,
she's
but
fierce.
yeah,
But like she was kind of the person that stood up for you even on the team, even when Jim was kind of hesitant. It's like, oh, I don't know if I can trust JC. I mean, I know he was like joking to a degree, like he's kind of plays up a moment, but there's still like some doubt at times. And but she was like, no, I think we can trust JT because the one thing JT said is he would never eliminate others for money. And
he did
Yeah,
take
wouldn't
his
take a
that
breath to
word.
eliminate other people, right?
Yeah,
So the dialogue was, if I recall, you know, I remember telling Monica, I said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to give this coin to you." Like I wasn't going to give it to Jim because Jim was
sure,
just he had a record of just like failing challenges. You
sure,
know, I was
sure.
like, this is going to go nowhere. Jim, if you're watching, I love you. I love you,
No,
but
I love
that's
Jim.
sincere.
Yeah,
But I wanted to give it to Monica for a few reasons, right? She's strong and strong on her own,
mhm,
and she didn't need it, but it's good to have just in case, because Monica also was not the fan favorite of all the players in the city. Some
mhm,
people didn't like Monica, you know,
yeah,
because she's a strong player, she's a competitor, she's a threat, she's opinionated, she speaks up. Some didn't like her just because of her relationship with Jim.
yeah, yeah,
Like, you know, look at this lovey-dovey couple again, you know?
yeah.
So
JT's
she
line, I don't like
wasn't,
that little couple nonsense. That's kind of
yeah, so
funny. Yeah,
she wasn't for everyone, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
but she was for me.
yeah.
Um, and that gives her a little bit of like security,
Mhm.
you know, with that coin. it can help you out in case you're not doing so well in a challenge, or it can help get you to that. But I did tell Monica, part of the dialogue, I said, hey, listen, I'm giving this to you. The word to flip the coin, the promise, was mine and mine only.
Mhm.
I promised that I would flip it. I said, I don't want you to have that burden. You decide what you want to do with this coin. If you get to top 10, I'm sorry, top 6, which I hope this helps you get to top 6, it's your decision to make.
Yeah.
Right? Because I didn't want to put that pressure on her of like, oh man, now I have this coin. Because to be honest, she didn't really want the coin.
Yeah.
She did not want it, you know? But I felt it was in the best hands with her. I felt she would be the best keeper of that coin, and she would use it whenever she needed to use it. Yeah, and I wanted that decision to be all hers.
So out of curiosity, you don't know anything that happens after the cubes, right?
No.
So what is your prediction of what ends up with that coin? I want to get your early gameplay opinions of what you think she will do with that coin.
Well, it's going to be one of two scenarios, because I see her getting to the top 6 regardless of the coin. I see her moving forward. So it's going to be one of two scenarios. Either she gets to top 6 and she's like, I didn't come this far to come this far. I'm sorry. But this is a 50-50 chance that I'm going to, you know, stay or go home. And I busted my butt to get here. And as much as you and I would like to double the prize and get 10 million out of this, it's too risky. And I think she would position it in a way that people would understand. Like, you know, you earned your keep here in top 6. So I don't think she would have flipped it. The other scenario would be, you know, when you look at Mr. Beast's method of operation, if I can call it that, he'll just keep bumping up bribes and bumping up bribes and bumping up bribes, right? To the point where someone is like, whoa, hold on a second. Now this is money that I can, you know,
do something with.
Yeah, this is life changing. This is helpful. So maybe he offers her a bribe that she can't turn down. And she cashes it in. And if she does, then that's awesome as well, you know, because then it's a win for her.
That would be interesting to see how that turns out. Really exciting.
Yeah, because he's trying to buy that back. He's trying to buy
because he doesn't want to spend another $5 million.
No. When we were in the cubes, I looked right into one of the cameras and I was like, so let's talk, Mr. Beast. Let's talk, Jimmy. I was like, you offer me 1 million. I save you 4 million. Coin is yours. Potentially save you 4 million, you know, but he didn't catch that bait. So yeah, one of those two scenarios is going to pan out. Either she's going to make it to 6 and not flip it, or maybe she even does flip it. I highly doubt that, though. I highly doubt, because of the way she's been playing the game. She's there to win.
She's there to win the whole thing.
Yeah, she's there to win, and I hope she does. The reason why I gave Monica a fast pass, and I know some people are going to look at this and say, oh my God, really, JC? That was your thought process behind this? But that's what I felt was right. So season 1, I had a little bit of some would call it like a spiritual awakening, right? Where I would meditate and ask for signs, and a sign was provided to me that let me know I was going to advance, and I was going to advance, and I was going to advance. And ironically, after episode 8, I never got any more signs. It was just, and I knew that was my time home. So fast forward, when I got the call to go on to Beast Game Season 2, and I agreed, for about a week and a half or almost 2 weeks, I would wake up often at 4:44 in the morning. Really random.
You did mention to me whenever we were texting that reminded me of 444. Okay.
Yeah, so I would wake up randomly at 4:44 in the morning on the dot, to the point where I thought something's wrong with my phone. Like my phone is glitching on me. And I didn't make anything out of it. The day that I decide to pack my bags and head out to North Carolina, I stop at Walgreens and I buy some snacks for the flight. And my receipt comes back at $4.44. And I was like, this is interesting. And I was like, I see you. This is a sign I've been asking for. What does this mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. right? We head out to North Carolina. We're in hotels, as you know, they put you in hotels and stuff like that. We're the reveal and all that. And when they pick us up to go to the studio, I open up my hotel room, and across from me, the room number is 444. I was like, wow, you are kidding me right now, right?
Yeah.
So I already knew that something had to. My sign was 444, and I just couldn't figure it out or piece it together. I didn't know how that was going to come into play, but there was a moment in the city where Monica's having a moment, and she's having a tough day, and she's by herself. No one's around her, and I walk up to her. I was like, "Hey, you all right?" And she's like, "No." And we have a heart-to-heart moment. She opens up. I console her. We chat, and then she takes her necklace and kind of pulls it out,
No
and
way.
she has a charm that says 444 on it. I shit you not.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was really, really weird. And at that moment, for me, it was loud and clear that season two was never about me. It was about me helping someone out, and that's who I was supposed to help out. And I know some are going to be like, "Oh, but I believe in like being present, being
Yeah.
acceptant of signs, and yeah. So
That
that's
is
the reason why when we
crazy.
were in those cubes, I was like, hey, you know what, Monica? You've earned your keep.
Yeah.
You're going far. Don't even play.
That is
Yeah.
actually insane that all that lined up.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
But she,
crazy.
yeah, she is an absolutely fierce competitor, and I do wish I got to know her and Jim more because they seem like really fun people. But I
They
was kind of
are
like in my
fun.
own my own group. But she's definitely someone that I could see taking the whole prize at the end of the day. So
I hope so.
we're
I
gonna have
hope
to
so.
see.
I know. I love this part of it. Like I hate being out of the games because I love the games and I wish I would have
Yeah,
went further. But when you're finally out, being able to view it from the perspective of everyone else,
yeah,
I'm like a kid in the candy store. I'm like, what's gonna happen next? Who's gonna go home? What are they gonna
yeah,
do?
yeah,
What car are they gonna smash? Like I'm living for every moment right now.
yeah.
So it's cool.
All right, and to finish things off, we're gonna do some rapid fire questions. You ready, JC?
Let's go.
Let's do it. What is your favorite challenge in either season so far?
The Survivor Challenge
Really?
by
No, I mean
far.
it's just iconic. Yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, hands down.
Perfect.
Now, was redemption a goal coming into season 2, or was that something that just kind of came out of it naturally?
That came out naturally. It wasn't about redemption for me. It was about showing that I'm a competitor.
But I'm glad that you at least did have a moment, and like you kind of did let a group of two together that I feel they're kind of meant to be. I think they're kind of cute together. So
Yeah,
Just
they
want to
are.
show
I
that
love
moment.
them.
Yeah.
now, what is one thing that you changed about your gameplay going into season 2?
That's a good one. What's something I changed about my gameplay going into season two? Um, Trust no one.
Sure. Yeah. I
Yeah, I
especially
think I,
after
I think I
the
went in with that philosophy, like trust, but trust lightly.
sure, yeah, because you never know. These games are meant to break those trusts. So yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Now, what is the next reality show that you will be applying for, and hopefully you get on?
Oh my God. So I've been getting a lot of feedback that I should be on Traders, and I love Traders.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
would love to be on that. The only problem is I have a hard time lying, and
sure,
you have to be deceitful for that game, right?
yeah.
So
Do you
it
think
would be a
also
bit of a.
like your predisposition of people knowing who you are from Beast Games would kind of like affect that gameplay as well?
I think in anything I do in life now, if I
Yeah,
ever go on any game, they're like, as long as one person knows me, I'm kind of like screwed at
sure, yeah,
that point. But
yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't mind doing Traders because I love the show. I also watched a show not too long ago that I actually just did apply for called 99 to Beat.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Okay,
just whimsical challenges,
yeah, yeah.
fun games. Like I just want to do it for the fun of it. I love
And
competing.
that's
I love games.
Yeah, it's very similar to like now season 2 of Beast Games, where it's like something that you have to do for yourself. It's not as much of as a social game, so it's something you could actually genuinely win.
yeah,
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 most of it is on your own merit, right? They have a
yeah, yeah,
few team challenges, but most of it is
yeah.
like you're pulling your own weight, and I want that. So I just
That'll
applied
be
for
super fun.
that. So if the stars align,
Oh,
hopefully
that'll be
I get
super
on
cool.
that. Yeah,
Perfect.
Then, what is the biggest thing besides the money that Beast Games gave you?
that's a heavy question. Self-worth, I would say, um, because I spent the majority of my life seeking acceptance from others, right? As a gay man, um, I'm hated on just because of who I am without even being given a chance of like getting to know me,
Yeah.
right? So I think acceptance for me was something that I gained, and being able to allow people to not like me. In the past, I've always seeked acceptance. Like it was the thing that drove me. I
Yeah.
needed for people to like me. I needed people to, root for me. And I think because 2025 was a really trying time that kind of put me in somewhat of a dark place, and I was able to get out of that. For me, that's the biggest lesson that I've learned, that it's okay if someone doesn't like me. It's their opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not living my life anymore to people please.
Yeah.
I'm okay with speaking up, standing up for myself, finding my voice, whether someone likes it or not. I'm going to be authentically myself.
I love that.
And hey, I gotta say, I'm so glad that I did genuinely get to like talk to you and get to know more about you. The few weeks that we did get to. And thank you for joining me today for this interview. I'm really glad that you got like a bit of a redemption arc, even though it wasn't planned. I think people need to give you a chance more. And even though it doesn't matter to you, like I do think that sometimes people rush, and especially with the limited edits, people assume one thing and they don't get to know the true intentions of certain things that happen. So thank you for joining me today, for real.
Yeah, it was awesome, man.
Cool.
Cheers.
And yeah, thank you for joining us for another episode of Behind the Beast. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching another episode of Behind the Beasts. It genuinely means the world to me. Now, for those who do not know, we are also doing a fundraiser across the entirety of the series for Major Connections. It is a foundation created by Gloria, one of the other contestants on the show, and its purpose is to provide resources as well as a sense of community for those with disabilities, both kids and adults, in rural communities. Now, oftentimes in major cities, they have the funds to be able to provide these resources, but smaller cities do not, and that is what Major Connections aims to solve. If you want to learn more about Major Connections, check out the link in the description. If you have the financial means to do so, please donate to the cause. And if you don't at this moment, that's okay. Please share it with your friends and family. But for now, thank you for taking the time to watch Behind the Beast, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.